No room for complacency. This opinion examines why Pakistan must maintain vigilance and momentum on reform, despite recent favorable external developments. Recent external developments have been quite favorable for Pakistan, some of them unexpected. External developments is a noun phrase meaning events or trends originating outside Pakistan. Unexpected is an adjective meaning not anticipated. This opening sentence serves as a thesis statement by highlighting that despite offsetting global shifts, Pakistan still faces crucial internal tasks. Pakistan's emerging importance after the May skirmishes with India, President Donald Trump's soft pronouncements, coupled with a warm welcome to the top leadership, the souring of U.S.-India ties, a reasonably good deal on reciprocal tariffs, the upgrading of credit ratings, prospective investment in massive oil reserves and minerals, etc., have led to euphoria. Skirmishes is a noun meaning brief armed clashes. Soft pronouncements is a noun phrase meaning mild or positive public statements. Reciprocal tariffs is a noun phrase meaning mutually applied import duties. This sentence means a series of geopolitical and economic developments have created an overly optimistic mood in Pakistan. However, this exuberance should be tempered by the experience of past relationships with major powers, which have been transactional and not permanent. Exuberance is a noun meaning unrestrained enthusiasm. Transactional is an adjective, meaning based on exchange of benefits rather than long-term commitment. This sentence cautions that goodwill from great powers has historically been conditional and fleeting. High-wire acts carry risks. High-wire acts is a metaphor meaning dangerous or delicate undertakings. This sentence warns that balancing international opportunities with domestic reform is precarious. We should not allow the feel-good factor to intoxicate us. Feel-good factor is a noun phrase meaning a false sense of comfort or success. Intoxicate is a verb meaning to make one lose clear judgment. This sentence argues against complacency spurred by positive headlines. Our policymakers should not project life as being easy going forward, as if they were no longer obligated to carry out the onerous task of building a strong economy through stabilization and deep reform. Onerous is an adjective meaning burdensome or difficult. This sentence reminds leaders that genuine economic transformation remains challenging. In short, there is no room for complacency as we are far from overcoming our domestic vulnerabilities, which are accentuated by adverse external conditions. Complacency is a noun meaning self-satisfaction with the status quo. Accentuated is a verb meaning made more severe or prominent. This sentence summarizes that internal weaknesses persist and are worsened by global headwinds. Deglobalization, inward-looking industrial policies, onshoring and nearshoring of supply chains, disruptive and exorbitant tariffs hindering international trade and openness, the likely slowing down of the U.S. economy, climate change risks, and AI penetration have made it difficult for emerging economies to repeat the exceptional progress made in 1990 or 2015. Deglobalization is a noun meaning reduction of cross-border economic integration. Onshoring and nearshoring are jargon terms meaning relocating production closer to home markets. Exorbitant is an adjective meaning unreasonably high. This sentence catalogs global trends that now impede fast growth for countries like Pakistan. Domestically, the drivers of competitiveness, industrial and agricultural productivity through diffused innovation, a less skilled workforce, dysfunctional governance institutions, political instability, an inequitable and distortive taxation structure, overregulation, the deep intrusion of state agencies in the market, an outdated model of energy pricing, and the SOE's continuing losses are stumbling blocks to generating jobs, expanding exports, reducing poverty, and attracting investment. Diffused innovation is a noun phrase meaning widespread or decentralized technological progress. SOEs is an acronym for state-owned enterprises. This sentence identifies internal structural barriers that block economic dynamism and job creation. Digitization, financial inclusion, and the absorption of emerging technologies are still in their infancy and yet to permeate transaction structures. Digitization is a noun meaning conversion of processes to digital formats. Financial inclusion is a noun phrase meaning access to financial services for all citizens. This sentence notes that key enablers of modern economies remain underdeveloped in Pakistan. The debt burden has not yet reverted to the legal benchmark of 60% of GDP, and the rollover risk of short-term deposits by friendly countries remains high. Debt burden is a noun phrase meaning the total amount of outstanding debt. Rollover risk is a noun phrase meaning the chance that creditors will refuse to renew maturing loans. This sentence warns of fiscal constraints and reliance on temporary external funding. Foreign exchange reserves are inadequate for the growing needs of a buoyant economy and as a buffer for unanticipated future shocks. Foreign exchange reserves is a noun phrase meaning a country's holdings of foreign currencies. A buoyant economy is a metaphor meaning a rapidly expanding economy. This sentence underscores Pakistan's vulnerability to currency and trade disruptions. Continuity and consistency of economic policies are yet to be tested when faced with politically unpopular decisions that end the privileges of rent-seeking classes, including those defying formalization and documentation. Rent-seeking is a jargon term meaning efforts to gain unearned benefits through lobbying. This sentence questions whether reforms will hold when elites resist loss of their informal advantages. We should not allow the feel-good factor to intoxicate us. This repetition reinforces that optimism must be balanced with sober attention to hard work. Many reforms resulting in stabilization, deregulation of wheat prices and non-essential drugs, the Pakistan single window, automation and data integration of FBR taxes with third-party databases, the phasing out of regulatory and additional duties and reduction in rates and slabs, right-sizing of the federal government, privatization of PIA and the discos, civil service reform, and introducing a competitive market for the energy sector have been initiated. Pakistan's single window is a jargon phrase for a unified electronic portal for trade documentation. FBR is an acronym for the Federal Board of Revenue. This sentence lists key reform measures already underway that need to be completed. They should be brought to a successful culmination. This sentence urges finishing the initiated reforms to achieve their intended impact. Other planned reforms, such as targeted subsidies and training of women through BISP, the repair of provincial finances by raising outcome-based investment in social sectors, developing employable skills for youth, the efficient use of irrigation water in drought and heat-resistant seeds, boosting industries providing intermediate inputs such as steel, petrochemicals, active pharmaceutical ingredients, electronics, and export facilitation have yet to see the light of day. BISP is an acronym for Benazir Income Support Program. This sentence highlights additional recommended policies that remain unimplemented. Delivery of basic public services has suffered since directly elected, fully empowered, and well-resourced local governments were dissolved. This sentence argues that devolution was reversed, weakening grassroots service delivery. Stiff resistance by MNAs and MPAs, who fear losing their clout, has prevented the completion of devolution. MNAs and MPAs are acronyms for members of the National and Provincial Assemblies. This sentence explains that national and provincial legislators blocked local empowerment to preserve their own power. There's no realization that dissatisfaction with the government of the day will dwindle once local communities take charge of their own affairs and mobilize and allocate resources for what they see as priority needs in their areas. This sentence posits that true accountability and satisfaction arise when citizens govern locally. Surveys show that citizens with complaints have easier access to local counselors who can address their grievances than they do to their MPAs and MNAs. This sentence provides evidence that local representatives are more responsive than higher-level legislators. The Lahore, Karachi, and Islamabad metropolitan corporations will no longer be dependent upon the provincial or federal governments, who can then allocate more resources to backward districts. This sentence forecasts that empowered city governments can relieve budget pressures on national and provincial tiers. Underpinning the agenda of socioeconomic revival is an improved internal security situation. This sentence asserts that peace and stability are prerequisites for economic and social progress. Continuous instability in Balochistan and KP's merged districts has kept foreign and domestic investors from exploring our mineral resources. This sentence links security deficits to missed opportunities in the extractive sector. The Chinese, who helped us with the CPEC projects, are now reluctant to come to Pakistan for fear for their lives and property. CPEC is an acronym for China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. This sentence notes that even strategic partners hesitate to invest due to security concerns. America's recent interest in these sectors can only be actualized if the security situation improves. This sentence means U.S. investors will follow China only once stability is guaranteed. That requires local communities to have a say in control of the projects designed to benefit them in the form of jobs, contracts, services, roads, internet connectivity, skills training, support to SMEs or other economic activities suited to their endowments. This sentence argues that inclusive development schemes foster ownership and security. The present approach, whereby the provincial and federal governments maximize their returns at the expense of neglecting local communities, must be reversed. The sentence demands shifting revenue and decision-making power toward grassroots stakeholders. The security situation is likely to improve over time as trust and credibility are established, and genuine representatives, rather than hand-picked electables, are elected to the assemblies. This sentence forecasts that democratic legitimacy at the local level will reinforce stability. Over time, youth unemployment would recede, literacy, enrollment levels, and social indicators, and infrastructure would catch up with those in the developed districts, and the temptation to join or implicitly support militants would be suppressed. This sentence outlines the virtuous cycle linking socio-economic uplift to reduced extremism. Pakistan's favorable geostrategic position would be strengthened if we don't have to rush to the IMF and friendly countries for bailouts each time a crisis erupts, or to adopt stringent administrative measures to restrict imports of raw material, machinery, and components, thus hurting sustained growth. Geostrategic position is a noun phrase meaning the strategic value of a country's location. This sentence argues that self-reliant growth reinforces both security and sovereignty. We have to walk a tightrope around foreign policy by not alienating our long-term friend China while maintaining healthy ties with the U.S., our major trading partner. Walk a tightrope is an idiom meaning maintain a delicate balance. This sentence recognizes the need for equidistance between China and America. It is heartening that we are moving in that direction, but this has to be sustained. This sentence expresses cautious optimism about recent diplomatic shifts. We have to put in our best effort to improve relations with our neighboring countries, including India. This sentence extends the call for regional cooperation to all neighbors. A prosperous South Asia would be a precursor of regional peace and the welfare of the 2 billion people living in the region. This sentence links economic integration to stability and shared prosperity across South Asia. In sum, Pakistan is fortunate to have a confluence of favorable circumstances, but this should not lull us into complacency, which deviates from the path of inclusive and sustained growth. Confluence is a noun meaning a coming together of factors. This sentence reiterates that multiple opportunities exist, but only disciplined action can realize them. We have to consolidate the reforms initiated, undertake planned ones, and reorient our foreign policy. This concluding call to action demands completion of reform agendas and strategic diplomatic realignment. The writer is a former governor of the State Bank of Pakistan. Published in Dawn, August 7, 2025.